Redline, we're a bit of a background on us. We're a little boutique agency based out in South Melbourne. So we deal with a range of clients anywhere from small business right the way up to large corporate. Obviously on your end, you have to be a lot more creative with your budget, so hopefully you guys get a bit out of what I'll go through today. Cool, so as you can see there, basically what I do is how do you make the most out of the world's biggest repository of cat videos. So as creatives, you'll be in your social media planning, you'll find that when you post the cat videos, it always gets a lot more engagement and likes. So we spend all this time doing this creative stuff, and then it's the cats that kill it. So, starting off, Google AdWords, for those of you that don't know, I've used an example of a wedding photographer that I'm going through this example because it's quite easy to sort of go through a few things. And you'll see Google AdWords, we've got the Google search here, the section appears at the top and down the right hand side of the page. So it's the same section, you've basically got position 1, 2, 3, and then continuing on down the right hand side of the page. Now the way it works is it's organised on a cost per click system. So these people haven't paid anything to appear there, they only pay when someone comes and clicks through onto their website. So you set your daily budget of how many people would like to get through to your website. What I'll say to people is consider how many sales you're looking to generate, how many leads you're looking to generate. From there you can sort of work backwards. You can say, well, if I need 10 leads, then I want maybe 100 visits through to my website. If I want 100 visits, then what sort of budget would I need to allocate to achieve that? So the way that section is organised, it's a bit like an auction. So Google's auctioned off the keyword photographers Melbourne in this example. And they've said, how much do you want to pay to appear for this keyword? So at the top there, I think we've got service seeking, then might say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, continuing on down the page. So it's basically the highest bidder, higher bidder wins, but it's also how relevant you are. So Google is all about user experience. So if you provide a good user experience, then you'll do well from this. So if you're trying to bid on your competitors' terms, Google's going to make you pay more because they're not looking for you. Coming back to user experience. And obviously when you're running this sort of stuff, it's important to see how well it's actually going. You want to track any leads that you're getting through from it, and then you want to focus towards those leads and make sure you're getting lots of good reporting from that. If you guys don't have Google, so who's got a website here set up? Who's got Google Analytics set up on their website? Who logs in and looks? Cool. So log in, check it out. There's a lot of really good information that you can get from that. And I'll be going through that in a little bit more detail a bit later as well. But the important thing is if you're investing money in this kind of stuff, especially if you need to be efficient with your budget, you just need to make sure that you're spending your money where it's getting the best results. So if we were to look at an AdWords campaign, how to set one up, straightforward, go to that address. And if anyone wants a PDF of this afterwards, I'm happy to provide it if you give me your email afterwards, because there's some useful tips in here as well. This pretty much takes you through a stage process on how to set up an AdWords campaign, and also how to make the most of SEO, which is the organic section of Google. Hopefully everyone will be awake in 50 minutes when I finish as well. What I'd say is, first things first, set up either a Gmail account or use Google Apps to do this. If you've got Google Apps for your business, you can do it with that address, or use a Gmail address. You'll see why a bit later. I'll go through to that detail. And then consider the structure you're creating a campaign. So you can see here that any particular campaign is made up of the actual campaign itself. Under that campaign, you'll have what are called ad groups. So these have, like we saw before, those little text ads that are relevant to that ad group. And then under those ad groups, you have a keyword set, which are then relevant to those ad groups. So you can see in this example here, what I've done is we've got a photographer, and they do perhaps wedding photography and portrait photography. So you'd want different adverts for each of those, and then under those you would want different keywords that are related to those ad groups. So, this is sort of, okay, who's run an AdWords campaign here? Who's dabbled with it? Cool, so we've got a few people around the room. Who's happy with the success that AdWords has delivered? We've got a thumbs down, we've got 1 or 2 hands up here, cool. this process, if you do want to explore doing this, this is like a step-by-step on how to set up a campaign and the most common mistakes that I will see when I have a look at someone's campaign and how to avoid those. So the first thing you'll notice is when you go through and set up a campaign, and this will make more sense if you actually want to go through and do it, consider advertising only on Google in the search versus the display. So displays like the ads that you see on theage.com.au or across other news websites, they can work, but you've got to have a big budget to make those sort of campaigns successful, whereas search is someone is searching for your product. So that generally drives a lot more conversions and a lot more revenue. So selecting just all features just gives you a lot more options later on in a particular AdWords campaign. And I generally like to deselect that box, so that means you don't show on other websites that are related to Google. Now, another common mistake I see is people will set their geographic region that they're targeting quite wide. So who has an e-commerce website here? Yeah. And who, of the other websites, are you looking, I'm assuming a lot of you are looking for phone calls rather than sales. Just make sure you've got the geographic region that you want to either sell into or generate leads from set correctly to either Victoria, Melbourne, or in e-commerce, you might want to sell across Australia if your freight costs are too expensive to different parts. So consider bidding options. You can either let Google set your bids for you. Now, Google loves doing this. It's great for their share price. Generally, I would say you want to do this sort of stuff yourself because it gives you a lot more control over what you're doing. And you also have other targeting options in there. So you can schedule your ads. You can say, I only want my advertising to show between, say, 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. at night. You might notice that you're not getting many leads overnight, or it's just not driving conversions. So you might want to just schedule it during the daytime when you're generally going to get more leads. Now, text ads. So these are the little ads that we saw before. Now, you want to kind of make these compelling. You've only got really a couple of lines to sell your business. So you've really got to be compelling in what you offer. And the common things that people generally do quite well is they might say who they are and what they do, but they won't give people a reason to actually purchase from them or do business with them. So if you follow this structure, this will generally give you a really good text ad and make sure that you get the most out of a particular campaign. So like we're saying, write compelling ads. So make sure that you say who you are, what you do, so why people are actually going to do business with you, and that's key. And where you're located as well, because if you're looking for leads from a local area, then you want people that are clicking from that area. And you can use this as a filter to sort of filter out the people you don't actually want to come through to your websites. Now, a couple of little tips there, so you can create a dynamic ad, which basically just means it will swap out the title line for what people are searching for. I won't go into that in too much detail. The one thing I would say is just make sure you write like a few different ads for each particular ad group, because you'll be able to test the performance of those. And for those of you that you might be shying away from AdWords because the cost involved with it and it's not really a longer term thing, I'll be going through SEO a little bit later, and that's a much better long term strategy. And also it can be cost effective if you guys are doing it all yourself, because the investment required is your time. Generally I don't have much of that, but I'm sure everyone's quite time poor as well. But yeah, with SEO, it's really, if you can invest the time into doing it, then you'll get a good results. So keywords in AdWords. So just make sure they're relevant to those ad groups. So we saw before that example, you had a wedding photographer and they did portrait photography. So you wouldn't put this wedding photography keywords in that ad group. You'd want them in the most relevant ad group. And this next point is really one of the most common mistakes I see with people when they run AdWords campaigns is they will set their keywords on what's called broad match. So this means that your keyword could show up for what you want it to, but it could also show up for anything broadly related to that particular keyword as well. So in this example, we've got wedding photography, wedding photographer, but it might also just, in that bottom keyword, Melbourne wedding photography, it might also start to show for terms which are related to Melbourne. So stuff that's completely irrelevant to what you're trying to do. So don't use broad match. Those little square brackets, phrase brackets, and plus signs, I'll go through those and what they sort of mean. Basically, they mean you want to show for terms that are at least related for what you're trying to promote. So give me an example. So we had a few e-commerce stores before. Who's got an e-commerce store again? So what do you sell?
Baby wear.
Baby wear, yeah, cool. So in your example, sorry?
And baby sleep bags.
And baby sleep bags, yeah, cool. So in your example, if you had baby sleep bags, great example actually, because you would want it on either exact match or on phrase match, because if you were to say baby sleep bags, just by itself, you might show for terms that are related to baby, and you might show for terms that are related to sleep bags. So all of a sudden it becomes not really relevant to what you're trying to do. So this is just about how do you get targeted traffic that's actually going to generate customers through to your website. And we'll sort of go into it in a bit of detail there as well. It's all very dry, my topic, so I apologise that I can't really make this more. I was going to include a lot more cat memes, because generally they're just a bit more interested, but it's very dry. Thank you. I appreciate the camaraderie there. Modified broad. Generally, modified broad, little pluses. So I would say you pretty much just want to set all of your keywords on that. That will either make the search needing to be somewhat like what you're looking for. So in that example, baby sleeping bags, it would have to be baby sleeping bag. It might be baby sleeping bags. It might be sleeping bags for babies. It still has to be just a related search. So it has to be relevant for what you're trying to get. And in this space with Google, Google love it when you do make it too broad, because you spend lots of money and it's good for their share price. But if you do this sort of stuff, it means you'll focus what you're doing, so what you're spending is going to get a much better result for you. Phrase match, so it either has to be by itself or part of a phrase. In that example, I'm looking for a wedding photographer. Exact match says basically it has to only be that keyword by itself. And the last thing I'll go through is the negative keywords. So generally, negative keywords will say, I don't want to show up when someone types this into a phrase. So if they type in, the words that I usually cut out straight away are keywords like cheap and bargain, because generally they're driving a lot of research and they're not the sort of customers that you want. Cool. So when you're writing an ad, again, I won't go into this in too much detail, but there are things called ad extensions, so you can make your ad have a lot more information, which makes it stand out and you get a better result. Again, as I said, I'll send this through as a PDF afterwards, because if you do go through and set up a campaign, this really is a step-by-step, do this, do this, do this, then do this. Cool. So, Google Analytics, as we were saying before, make sure you've got it set up. It'll give you a lot of really good information on your website. It'll show you how people are using your website. It'll show you how interested they are, how long they stay on your website, and you'll be able to actually use it to make improvements to the performance of your site over time as well. You also want to link your AdWords campaign to your analytics, because you then get a lot more data of which you can make some really good decisions on your AdWords. So that again is just a step-by-step on how to do that, how to link your AdWords and your analytics. But then what that does is it enables you to compare things like how long people are spending on your website when they've come through from your AdWords advertising. So if they're only spending 10 seconds, they're probably not interested in what you have to sell, what you have to offer, but when they're getting up to the 1 minute mark of time on your site, they're checking out a few pages, they're probably a little bit more interested in what you have to say. And the idea is obviously to increase that over time, to make sure that then delivers more conversions through for you. So when you're improving your performance of a campaign, these are the steps that you want to go through. You really want to have a look at, as we were saying before, how much you're bidding for a particular keyword, does it actually work for you, where you're appearing on Google, do you want to increase that, do you want to decrease it, how many people are actually clicking through to your website versus looking at your ad, so that's click-through rate, and is the keyword, most importantly, is it driving sales? As I said for you guys, it's a lot harder to be creative on a smaller advertising budget than it is when someone gives you $1 million. When you've got $1 million, you can experience, you can trial these different avenues, and you can generate all this different traffic. But when you're running at a smaller end of scale, the more effective, the more efficient you do it, better result you're going to get. And this generally is how you look at doing that. Cool. So what I'll do is I'll come to that later and see if anyone does have any questions, if anyone's still awake at the end. Cool. So SEO. So who's tried optimizing their website here? Who knows what SEO is? Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's good. So we've got a few hands. And who's had success with it? Awesome. Yeah. Cool. So this is great. I mean, this is how do you generate customers for free? How do you generate more revenue? And it's not really going to cost you a lot to do it, apart from your time. Now, in this example, we can see down the left-hand side of the page here. So it is the organic section of Google. So how do you make yourself more relevant to Google for particular keywords so that it then shows you for those keywords? And really what that comes down to, a lot of people in my space will tell you this is very complex and very technical and requires all these difficult codes that you won't understand, but really it comes down to three very simple things. The content throughout your website, Google's going to read that, see what you're actually about. It comes down to how well your website is actually made. Does it look good on a mobile phone? Does it load quickly? Does it provide a good user experience? All that sort of stuff is what Google wants to see to make sure that it comes up quite well. And lastly, it's a bit like a popularity contest. So Google wants to see how many links, how popular your website is, and it's looking for those cues to then see who it's actually going to show at the top of the search results. So what I'd say, before you do this process, because SEO is a longer term strategy, it takes a while to work. Generally, for our campaigns, we'll say to people, don't expect to get anything for the first 3 to 6 months of running a campaign. It really does take a while to actually show results. It's a great longer term strategy, but you've got to be patient with it. And what that means is, if you haven't done the research on how you're going to set up a campaign initially, before you start working on it, you might get 6 months in and realize, hang on, this is actually the wrong focus. So if you've got that focus beforehand, you're going to get 6 months down the track and think, cool, I've made the right decision, it's generating customers. And in AdWords, you have what is called the keyword planner, which can give you a lot of information on how many people are searching for particular terms. It's a great way to actually work out how big your market is as well. So you can focus that into different geographic areas, and you can use that to say, well, cool, so this is what I'm looking at promoting. What does the market actually look like for that? What I would then say is, if you have a range of different products, so if we take the sleeping bags example again, do you sell other products as well?
Kids swimwear and kids sleepwear.
Swimwear and kids sleepwear.
And,
cool.
And swaddles.
Cool, and so that's quite a few different products. So what I would say is, if you then find out what people are searching for in those different areas, so whether it's swaddles, or let's take the example of, say, swaddles and swimwear, because
well, I know they're searching for sleep bags.
Yeah, okay, so let's take sleep bags, and let's take swimwear. Two very different things. So you would want to work out what people are searching for and then group those into like keywords. So you might have kids swimwear, swimwear for kids, children's swimwear. Might be all different variants of what those terms are. And then the sleeping bags might be, as we were saying before, sleeping bag for kids, sleeping bags for kids, sleeping bags for children, all those different variations of those particular keywords. Group them together. So like we did in AdWords, we had groups. Here we have keyword groups. So as you can see this example, that's what we did. So we had like the wedding portrait example. Who's using WordPress here? Yeah, awesome. And who's, okay, so if you've got e-commerce, who's using Magento? Yep, cool. Or WooCommerce? Yep, cool. So all of those tools are really quite easy to do this process. If you're on WordPress specifically, go and install something called Yoast. It's the SEO plugin. It makes this process a lot easier. So if I'm looking after a campaign, it's the first thing I do. If you don't, you can still do what I'll take you through next. It's just a little bit different in how you do it. So as we were saying before, once you group those keywords, create a page on that website that is relevant to that particular set of keywords. So in your example, if you were going to create a page of content around kids' sleeping bags, that's what that page is about. It's not about the kids' swimwear. You would have another page that's relevant to kids' swimwear, and you would have that page that's relevant to children's sleeping bags. Then the next stuff I'm going to talk about, you would want to make sure that that all matches up to that particular keyword group. Cool. So continuing on setting up this campaign, there's a great free tool that Google gives you, called Google Webmaster Tools. If your web company hasn't set it up for you, get them to. It takes them 2 seconds to do it, and it tells you what your website looks like from Google's perspective. So if you need to change stuff, it'll tell you what you need to change. And because you've got a Gmail account or a Google Apps account, you can link your AdWords, your analytics, your Google Webmaster Tools all under that one account. So it makes it a lot easier to manage this process. So, as we were saying, yeah, so it'll give you an idea of if Google's having any issues reading through your websites, and it will also tell you more data on what people are actually searching for, and you'll be able to submit a sitemap. And a sitemap is basically a list of every single page throughout your website. You can then submit that to Google to say, these are all the pages throughout my website. So it just helps it find more content about your business, and then helps that essentially rank more of those pages over time. So another key thing, who's got a Google business page, or who's got a Google Plus page? Cool, we've got a few hands again. So this is free to do, and if you haven't done this already, like if you don't listen to anything else, go and set one of these up because it's free, and you will start to show in local searches if you configure it correctly. So all you'll need to do that process is search for Google Business. It will take you through to a map and say, hey, look, we want to make sure your business isn't here already. Do a search, it will say that it's not, and then you can click through and then add your business later. So once you've got that Google Business search, you can then get all of your happy customers to write reviews for you, and then you can go and list your business on a lot of different directory websites, of which there are thousands. And if you start to do this, you start to build a popularity around your business. As we were saying before, Google links popularity contest. If you're doing this, you'll start to show really well for local searches. So set up a Google Business page, get all of your happy customers to give you lots of reviews, and also then go and list on TrueLocal, Start Local, Hotfrog, all of these different directory websites. Cool. So the different elements that you might see throughout a particular page that you want to make relevant for that keyword group starts off with the page title. So that's basically the bit that appears in the tab in a browser, and you want to make sure that that is relevant for that keyword group. Again, if you've got Yoast, it's really easy to set this up. If you've got Magento or if you're using another e-commerce platform, I'm happy to walk you through it if you grab me afterwards. But you want to make sure that that page title reflects the keywords you're trying to show for. From there, the H1 tag, it's kind of like the first header on any particular website page. So it might be, in your example, you might say sleeping bags, and that might be in bold. That might be the first header on that page. And then Google looks to that sort of stuff to say, well, what is this page actually about? So just configure that again around the keyword group that you want to show for. And the H2 tag, again, that's sort of just it might be not the main title on a particular page, but it might be secondary, H2, so it might be just a little bit smaller. But again, Google uses all that sort of stuff to work out what the page is about. So then the meta, so this meta description, that's basically the little bit that you see, kind of like the text ads for Google AdWords. You'll see a little bit of a blurb underneath your website. Make sure that has your keywords in it, but also, again, you've only got a little bit of space to grab people's attention, so make sure this is compelling and that it's actually going to grab people's attention. And also the content throughout a particular page, just make sure that that's relevant for the types of keywords that you want to show for. And you don't have to stuff sleeping bags into it a million times. All you have to do is think of those keywords as you're writing the content, and you'll find you get really good natural content that's going to sell your product, but also you'll find it has those keywords in it as well at the same time. So images, this is a key thing. Don't save them and upload them to your website as 123XYZ. Google can't see images. It looks to the file name of those images to work out what the image is actually about. So make sure you upload it as something that's actually relevant to your product or relevant to a service that you're actually trying to promote. And also, you can configure it alt tags in most website systems when you upload them. Make sure that that's also relevant to the types of keywords that you're trying to show for that page. So the last thing I'll go to, and this is a great one. It's free to do all of this stuff that I'm taking you through, and it's just about utilising your networks to then generate more popularity around your business. In fact, you've got a great network around you right here. There's potentially a lot of people that you could start utilising this for, and if you've got people that you're talking to, friends that you're making here, I would start talking about, okay, how are we going to build popularity for your business and how are you going to do the same in return for me? So what you're trying to do is build the authority of your website so Google thinks that you're the expert in any particular industry. So it's kind of like a popularity contest. Google's trying to say, well, how many people do you know? Okay, I know 1,000 people. Ooh, this person must be pretty popular. But this person knows Brad Pitt, so wow, this person must be really popular. So we're gonna give that person more authority, and they're actually going to do better than this person that they know a lot of people, but they're not that popular. So it's not just about who you know or which websites are linking to you, it's about the quality of those websites as well. So if you can get an article published on The Age that then links back through to you, that adds a lot of authority. If you can get published on websites that are relevant to your business, that link back through to you, that builds a lot of authority. Cool. So directory websites, as we were talking about before, and business forums, they can give you a really good opportunity to show up for local search terms, as we were talking about before. Competitor analysis, this is a great one. I'll show you something later that you can check out your competitors, what they're doing, and then you can work out if there's anything that you can utilize for your own website, and then improve on that later as well. So what I mean by that is you're going to be looking for the links on other people's websites that they have that builds up popularity for them, and work out if there's any that you can then create through to your website as well. Cool. And the final thing that we would move on to if we're looking after this kind of a campaign for any particular client would be what's called content outreach, which is effectively more content in more places linking to your websites. And there's a range of different sources that you can go and get this from. The idea to do this is you want to make content that's actually going to be interesting to people. If you're writing, hey, I sell this, this is what I do, come and buy this product. It's not, depending on your industry, it might be compelling, but in fact, actually, the last time I did this presentation, there was a cat photographer in the room, so that really tied into what we were saying before. But you really want to make it something that's more of a human interest piece. So talk about who you are as a person in your business, talk about the personality that you bring to your business, because that's what people connect with. They connect around those stories. They don't necessarily connect around a sales pitch. And if you can do that, then you've got a much higher chance of the pieces that you're writing getting picked up by a journalist, a trade publication, wherever you want that content to be. And the idea is to get those places to link back through to your site to build up the popularity over time. So relevant industry websites are the best. If it's related to your business, it's going to add the most value. Leverage your suppliers, it's a great one. So if you're spending money with people, get them to link through to you. That's a really good one. So yeah, anyone you spend money with, if you're advertising with someone, get them to link back through to you if they're not already. Trade journals, online news publications. So when you start talking about publications like The Age, like so anything to do with Fairfax or news, like these are the really hard ones to get. And I wouldn't say just try and get these for any particular story, but if you've got something that's happening with your business, something that's really relevant, don't try and just get it to the general PR release section for those publications, but find a journalist, which you can do by looking through, just looking through the newspaper, find a journalist that you feel would be interested in your story and start talking to that person directly. You'll get a much higher chance of them actually picking it up than sending it through to a generic mailbox. Cool. And to use this sparingly, reciprocal links is when you link to a website and that website links back. It has some value, but don't go crazy with it. But what I was saying before, with a network that you've got in this room here, you can certainly use this to build popularity of each other's businesses. And you can use it in a structured way. Cool. So link analysis. This tool that I was talking about before, where you can go and check out your competitors and what they're doing. This is just backlinkwatch.com. You'll be able to chuck your competitors' names in there. It looks a bit spammy. Don't click on the ads. It's the best free tool that I've found to do this. I've got paid tools, but for you guys, you can use this. It will tell you who's linking to your competitors' websites. You can then go through those and work out, well, which ones of these are actually going to be of value that I can get through to my websites. But you also want to use this to make sure you don't have any bad links coming through to your website. So if they're coming from sources that aren't really trustworthy, it might actually be doing damage to your websites rather than helping it. And the most easy example is if you see any links coming from either adult or gambling websites, like that could potentially be a spammy link coming through. Google does have a tool, again, I can give this as a PDF to anyone that wants afterwards, that you can submit these spammy links through to say, hey Google, I don't want you to take any notice of this link coming through. So, like we were saying before, just make sure you optimize any images that you're uploading to your website. It's one of the most forgotten things that people do when they're actually creating a site. Make sure the products or the images are named by the products or the services that you sell, and also make sure the images aren't huge as well. If you're uploading images that are 4 meg or upwards in size, it's going to take your website longer to load. The longer your website takes to load, the more it's going to hurt where it appears in a Google search. There are lots of free tools that you can find online that will actually compress images without actually losing any of the quality. If you just Google image compress or free image compression, you'll find a whole bunch of tools. One that I use is compressor.io. It's free, and you can plug all your images in there before you upload them to the website. You won't lose any quality. And, as we were saying before, just make sure you submit a sitemap in Google Webmaster Tools, because you've got that now set up. If you submit that sitemap through, if you're using Yoast will do this automatically for you. That is just going to give Google the potential to rank more of your keywords that you're looking to rank for. Cool. So mostly everyone seems to be still with me, which is kind of good. And yeah, cool. Got a question?
Yeah, I have a lot of people wanting to post articles on my site.
Yep.
Obviously, they want the link back to theirs.
Yep.
What would be your recommendation around that?
So, I mean, that's good value for them.
Yeah.
It's not really great value for you. What's your website, sorry?
It's an online community of women called The Perfect Mum. It's a motherhood website.
Yeah.
They offer to pay, but what is it a good idea not to do that?
It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's good for them because it will build up their popularity. However, it might be good for you because you increase the content you have in your website. So if you've got more content in your website looks bigger. And the best example of this is kind of like Wikipedia. It's one of the world's biggest websites, and it shows for a whole bunch of different searches because it has so much content. So the more content you have in your website can be better. That has value to you. But the link back through to them, that's more about that. That's more about the value it provides for them. Yeah. Does that answer your?
I do charge them.
Yeah. I was going to people make a business
move or not.
If you're making money out of it and it's not detracting too much away from your website, then yeah, cool. People make business models out of doing this, out of selling links on their websites. Yeah, cool.
I had a different question, but I also have something to ask in relation to that.
Yes.
So I run a blog.
Yep.
I get contacted by 6 billion SEO companies.
Yeah, as you would. Yep. Probably me in there as well.
Yeah. What do you think? So the whole follow, no follow link thing.
Yep.
Obviously, they want follow links.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, Google's policy is that anything that's a paid article, paid link, whatever, is a no follow link. What do you think? Is Google enforcing that?
Okay, so Google's rhetoric on this is do not buy links. It says do not buy links. It's the worst thing you can actually do. It says just don't do it. Just create lots of really good content on your website that then people will start to link back to. In actuality, you want links. And inevitably, the best way to get those links is to pay to get them onto someone else's website. So it has value.
What do you think the risk is for me though? That's my problem. So up until this point, I've always done no follow links for paid content.
Yep.
Because my site ranks well in Google and that's why they contact me. and I don't want to risk that.
Yep.
What do you think?
So the risk for you is you pass some authority onto them. You build out the content on your site, which again is a good thing, but it can take away from some of the authority from your site because you're passing it through to that new website. It's only a small amount.
It's likely to be penalised by Google.
No, not at all. No. If it's a follow link, that's fine. Look, that gets a bit more techy. If you grab me afterwards, we'll have a chat.
My other question was maybe not. Sorry, I'm still in two questions.
That's okay.
Maybe not so techy. In terms of you were saying optimizing pages, particular sets of keywords. Does Google recognise pages versus posts differently? And would you be linking, say you had a page targeting sleep suits, and then would you then have links from that page to other articles about, how to choose a great sleep suit and what to look out for in a good sleep suit and what age to get your kid out of a sleep suit?
You would potentially want those articles pointing to that page. So you would want the posts pointing to that page because you want to build up the authority. So what you were talking about is a very good point. That's internal links throughout a website. So on your website, when you click somewhere, it goes through to another page on your website. You can use that to direct traffic that's relevant to that keyword group. So that's a great example. If you're putting a blog post about sleeping bags, about how to choose. And
the categories page isn't the same as that. You know how Google gives you a categories page?
Yep.
That's not the same as what you're talking about. You're talking about creating it.
Yeah, look, generally, if you stick to this model, so if you stick to keyword silos, stick to keyword silo for a particular page, that's how you can get the best out of this. And the same principles apply to if it's a category, if it's a page, if it's a blog post. All the same principles of what we went through just then applies to all of those things. Yeah.
Alex,
Cool.
we've got
Okay, so
much longer.
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
we'll take two more.
All right. Any more questions? Yep. Hang on. We've got very enthusiastic out of that.
Yeah, I have a company that sells cake kits, and it doesn't really something that exists very much. And so therefore my Google AdWords might be cake, and cake is one of the highest ranking things in the world. So you could pay forever for somebody to get cake, because cake will always beat you. So what do you do when you have a product that somebody's not going to search for it, you don't know it exists, but you're trying to take yourself an organic, find it? How do you approach that?
So it's a completely different, I would say, to be honest, are people searching for it if they don't know about it? Maybe not. So I think what you need to do initially is you need to create an awareness. So that's where things like social media might come in to start creating awareness more of your products.
So Google AdWords, because I have good social media, but Google AdWords is probably not something that's going to be.
Well, because if you're bidding,
Facebook rebranding and radio marketing and that type of thing.
Well, if you start bidding on the keyword cakes,
it's impossible.
It's so competitive, and it's people looking for cakes. They're not looking for cake kits. So it's going to waste a lot of traffic. Yeah, you need to really create an awareness of your products. Either that, or if you had a huge budget, you could potentially spend it on cakes because you're trying to influence people to use you. But yeah, I would say you need to create an awareness more.
Facebook rebranding is probably a better than remarketing.
Social media.
Way to spend my money.
Yeah, I would say I'd say maybe shy away from AdWords, and you probably want to be more on the social media side of things. Yeah.
Cool. Can I just say one thing to you though? Sorry guys. The one thing I found out about your business by Googling simple birthday cake recipes, because I'm crap at making cake. So that's how I came across you and went, oh, that's awesome, that's what I need.
Yeah.
So maybe think around the corner as well, not just like what people, what's the problem you're fixing and what problems are people Googling.
Because you could use that broad simulation match for how to make a, asterisk, minion, star, dinosaur, whatever cake, and then get Google AdWords to give you anything that has that phrase in it with a different word. Because really, that's the people you want, is that want to know how to make a minion cake, and they go, awesome, she's just done it for me. I
am getting a wrap up. I've bored everyone enough for now.